Why are kids so fascinated with dinosaurs?
Because it's one of the most easily accessible parts of the brain to have imagination in. I mean, there's a bit of it real, and this pulls it out, and then they just take over. They're big, they're extinct, and there's nothing like it on Earth. And for a child to leap into that world, yet so tangible because we have fossils here, is their first step, and it's often their first step into science.
Dinosaurs always mean big?
To most people, yeah. That's their marquee, their hook. But as I quickly found out, there are all sorts of in-between and small dinosaurs, and in some ways they're equally, if not more, fascinating than the things we see on backs of cereal boxes. When we were collecting a crocodile up from near Melfort, north of Melfort, a big 25-foot crocodile, 95 million years old, nearby at a different level we found a site that had a lot of fragmentary bird bones, no bigger than a French fry. And as I processed the material, as I studied the material, discovered it's the richest fossil bird site of that age in North America. Nothing aesthetically pleasing as a T-Rex or visually stimulating, but it was one of the things I found and followed through and made sure that at least there's a footnote somewhere that this stuff is here. And I'm generally a very blue-collar paleontologist, and that's the most I can ever hope for. So
There are no Tokaryk's fossils?
There's one fossil named after me called Pseudodomus timmis. It's a fossil rat rodent, about 45 million years old. It was one of the first tertiary aged fossils, mammal fossils I ever found. And the little story behind that one was it was in a big block, and my boss had always collected small stuff before. I didn't like collecting blocks. I said, well, this is big. I got to bring this back to camp. And it was a little fossil in it, so at my evenings in camp I was cleaning it up, putting it back together again. He would look over and that looks interesting, and then after a while he said, no, I think you should stop. And what I found was the lower jaw with one of the molars still in the teeth. They're still in the jaw. And so I waited. I brought it back to the lab a few weeks later and prepped it out, and as he studied it, it became relevant in the sense that it was a new species, so he then named it after me. So yeah, I have a rodent named after me.
Well, we have a rodent as a national symbol.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And Timmy's, it's cool.
Yeah. Usually the only one who actually gets away with that is my mom.
How do you find being in the position you are now, where a lot of it's PR, or if not PR, you're connecting people, right? You're facilitating. Yeah. Is that a distraction from the field work, from the real thinking and stuff? Or do you like that educational function? It
can be. I mean, and people do a lot of stuff that they're good at, but may not enjoy doing all the time. But Thomas Huxley, one of his great attributes, and one of his biographers noted this, is that he talked about being able to communicate not only to your peers, but to the people, and to get them equally interested on what you're doing. It helps justify what you're doing, if not in a workplace situation, if not internally. And I still think that's a very good credo to have. I think it's lost today. I think there's still an ivory tower system where you get so specialized in your own specific field, you can only communicate with maybe half a dozen people on your own university campus, never mind to the general public. So I really admire people who can communicate in a real fashion. And yeah, it can be time consuming, but it's part of the job. I mean, I spend a lot of time by myself in places where people won't hear you scream, and it's nice also to be able to talk to somebody, and try to explain, this is what this means. You may not know this, but this is rare because it has this feature. This is why this. You just start rambling on, and suddenly it's a big explosion of excitement. Paleontology and astronomy, up until the 1980s, was, in my perspective, one of the last group of sciences that was done simply for the reason of asking. Tourism wasn't part of paleontology at that point. Marketing, there was no spinning of what you sell. Museums were up to that point were very static. It was simply, I want to know. What a human concept in a world that's seems so inhuman. And since that point, paleontology has become more driven to the market end, to the more tourism end. And we see that in institutions across the world, the British Museum of Natural History, the American Museum of Natural History. They're refocusing their energy to the marketing of it, which means it's taking the resources out of, or taking the idea of paleontology for its own sake, because that, how do you qualify a society without that? What, you can build another McDonald's here? Whoopee! I mean, that's not society. That's not humanity. This is humanity. This is our world.